So in the middle of all this crazy that is happening with this Joann Fabrics closing, I've been reading a lot of comments online off of not only my video, but also other videos. And there's a lot of negativity circling around.
Don't hit me with them negative waves so early in the morning.
So one of my favorite comments was this person who does oil painting, and they said that in referencing how there's hardly any discounts.
If this were your fire sale, you were running this thing, what would be your next move?
Okay.
That they would start an oil painting of the store, and then perhaps by the time they were done with the oil painting, the discounts would be high enough for them to bother going into the store. Which got me thinking.
Wow. Tell me, what does an idea man do?
I have a lot of fabric that I've collected literally over decades that I could make up into a special quilt as an homage. And then this company was founded in Cleveland, Ohio, and the Ohio Star is one of those classic quilt blocks. And so I'm going to make an Ohio Star quilt. If by chance you don't know what an Ohio Star is, this is what they look like. You've probably seen this before. And so it's basically a 9-pack type of a concept. And then you have these hourglass units, or what they call quarter square triangles. And then you have a center block. And in this case, I'm going to use more of like kind of fussy cuts and, or just regular cuts of something that has a lot of a print on it, because I want to feature a lot of the different novelty fabrics that I've bought over the years. Here's just a small selection. I have this that I made up into a dress, and then this was something that was about 20 years ago. This was also 20 years ago. This also was from a dress that I tried to make that didn't really work out, but I have a certain amount of remnants of that beautiful poppy fabric. This was a fun fabric that I found 20 years ago, and this was like a coordinate to it. These were actually in the clearance area. This is some fabric that I got around like maybe 2015, so maybe about 10 years ago. Same thing with the crane here. This is something else that I got like probably around 2017. And then these Russian dolls, or matryoshka fabric. They sold this for a long time. I got this, I think, around 8 to 10 years ago. And they don't seem to sell the matryoshka dolls anymore, I'm guessing because of the Ukraine situation. I don't have like a lot of it, so what I ended up doing on that one is I have my little strips here, and then I just used a little bit of vintage rickrack that I got from the stash that my mom had, and just fused it on there, and this will be a nice little custom thing. But for the most part, this is probably the only one that I have to do some kind of strange thing like that to. Although I may have to do something creative with this one. But most of these I should be able to have my 4.5-inch center square. And then my idea on this is to have 25 of these units. These units will finish to 12.5-inch before it's sewn up, so 12 inches finished inside a quilt. And then I figured that I would have about half of them, or like 13 of them, will be this type where it's a green star. And then I'll have 12 of them where I actually have a white star, and then I take like solid green fabrics that I have, and I have those in these background areas. And then one of the things with an Ohio Star is that this area here in these hourglass or quarter square triangle units can either be the background or it can be an accent color. So I have tons of fabrics. And so it'll be plenty easy for me to find some fun things that way. I have a lot of solids that I've kind of curated for this purpose. So for this very first one, I have my green fabric, and this is going to be for the star. And this is a green print that I got last December for making a Christmas stocking for myself. And then this is some white Kona, and I had like a pretty substantial yardage that I purchased of white Kona a few years back. So I'll have more than enough. I know I need to cut probably a few strips of the 4.5s. And then for my accent for those quarter square triangles, I'm going to have this nice kind of a coral color. I think that'll look really attractive. And then I'm going to fussy cut this fabric that's one of my favorite fabrics that I've gotten really from anywhere, and it is a Joann's fabric. First things first, I'm going to go ahead and just fussy cut this square. And so the reason why I'm going with this color scheme is that their colors are green and white. So I'm definitely shooting for having green stars and white stars, because I think that would be very appropriate to this. So first things first, we gotta figure out, I'm thinking this bird here is really nice. You know, I could go with a bird like that, but I like this because of that green teacup. So I'm gonna do that. Okay, let me get that out of the way so I don't accidentally cut it. Okay. Get this out of the way. Okay, and I need to go to there. All right. Okay, so let's see where we have this. I have used this fabric in many projects over the years. So, unfortunately, I can't get any more of that fabric. Now I have a center square that is 4.5 by 4.5. That's perfect. That'll be great for a center square here. And then, if I look at my written down directions here, I need 4 squares of 4.5 inches for background. So let's do that. So that's 4-inch squares there. I need 1 5.5-inch square of this. I need 2 5.5-inch squares of that. And then I need 1 5.5-inch square of this white. That's the background. So while I'm doing that, I want to kind of explain further my concept here. So I have an idea about this, which is that this could be kind of a fun challenge that I would like to issue. And that's basically that whatever it is that is your craft. So, you know, if you're like me and you're into quilting, then it'll be that. But maybe you're into knitting, maybe you're into garment sewing, maybe you're into embroidery or oil painting like the person that I was inspired by. And so my challenge is to think of this as an opportunity, this downtime that we have while we're kind of waiting for things to improve. Think of this as an opportunity to go through what you have, and then you could make your own homage to this. I look at this as a great way of kind of using things that are sentimental to myself. So that's what you can do. You can just use some, use up some yarns that are sentimental. You could make up like a scarf or a shawl. For like cross stitch, you could make like a sampler, like what are you making? And then maybe the headstone with the Rip and Joanne's on there. That would be kind of a funny, amusing take on it. I think it's just a fun thing to kind of get creative with. That's what I'm doing. And that's why I chose the Ohio Star. Is that for me, I think the symbolism there is, that's where they came out of. And they really were an influence for a lot of us. A lot of us got our start with whatever craft we're doing by going there and getting our first materials as beginners. And so, you can just kind of think of it that way, of just looking through things. If you're like me and you've been doing your craft for decades, then maybe you have stuff that goes back decades that you can dig up. And it's not only a great way of kind of chewing up some of your stash, but it's also a great thing for being able to just kind of sort of reframe how you're feeling, maybe get some more positive feelings going.
I mean, so many positive ways.
So that's just kind of where I'm at with this. And you can leave a comment down below, like what you would personally be doing and what your idea is. And I love to read the comments. I love to hear what people are up to. And so definitely, tell me what you're thinking of doing. And then I want to set up an Instagram post where I can basically have a place where, we can have some sort of a hashtag, some hashtags to kind of have some solidarity. So here we go. These are my last 2 squares. So just think about what you would want to do. Maybe you want to make an Ohio Star quilt after you see how this block comes out. Or maybe you want to do something else. Maybe the cross-stitch sampler sounds like your thing. So now that I have that, and then I only need one of these background squares. So we'll just pair up one of those, and then the accent square gets paired up with this, and there we go. Okay, so I'm making half square triangles, and this is a 2 at a time method. Basically, it's just drawing a diagonal line, and then I stitch on either side. So here we are with that one. And then okay. Now that I have those drawn up, I'm going to stitch them on either side and be back. So here's the blocks all nice and sewn up, and all I have to do is trim these, and that gets me these half square triangles. And then before I press these to the side, what I want to do is I want to go ahead and trim these, and I'm trimming these to where they're going to be a 5-inch square first. So I have my tool here that is really good for this task. And so this is a nice little triangle trimmer tool. It's a strip tube ruler. And basically all I do is I just line it up, like this is the 5. And so these marks are where you line it up on the seam. And so I have that lined up on the 5, and that will give me a square that is 5 inches when I'm done. A little difficult to do the cutting in that direction. And then whatever you have on hand that can give you that nice like boxed sort of edge. It could be this, but it's a little unwieldy. And I could definitely use this. So I think I will. And then I'm just trimming right here. And I'll just flip that around, it's easiest. And then trimming right here. Okay. And then this unit will be ready for me to press to the side, and I will end up with a half square triangle like that. Now that I have these all nice and pressed, and I pressed them to the side, so pressed to what I consider to be the dark, which is the green. And so as you can see, I can put it right there, and you can see that these are 5-inch squares. So the next step is to take one of these and one of these, and then I want to have the greens on either side. I'm lining up the diagonal seams together. And this is where it's handy to have this pressed to whichever is going to be that star side, or to the background if that's going to work better. Because then I can have these come up against each other, and those seams will be very nice. And then when I stitch it, I'm going to mark it down this way. And then when I'm done, it's going to look like that. And that is my unit right there. I'm going to line that up again, and here we go. It looks pretty good. So now I just need to mark this. Oop. There we go. And then I'm going to secure. In this case, I'm going to secure with a couple of pins just to make sure, and then I'm just trying to make sure that I have those sides lined up real nicely. So here we go. Okay, and I'll stitch on either side of that. And then while I'm at it, I can go ahead and get this one lined up. Here they are, all nice and sewn up, so I need to get these pins removed. Okay, and now to cut these apart, but I can look at it first before I cut it just to make sure. And that looks like that's going to look really good. Yeah, that looks about as perfect as I'm going to get for that little intersection point. All right, I've got those two. And let's see, and again, we'll just do that. I'm doing that so that, you know, I could seam rip this if I needed to. It looks like I'm set up real nice on this one as well. That one also looks like it's going to pretty much come out really, really well. Alright, and one more time with the triangle trimmer, the strip tube ruler I should say, to get this to the 4.5. So it's pretty tight there. Let's see. Okay. Alright. Okay. Yeah, so that's definitely pretty tight, but it's going to be within the seam allowance. And that'll work pretty nicely. While I'm here at my pressing station, let me show you my favorite way that I like to press blocks that come together in 4 pieces like that. So, first things first, I want to press that just to kind of release it. And then what I'm doing is I am just removing the thread there. These actually got trimmed a little tight. It's definitely under the 1/4 inch. And then on this, you can see that these 2 seams, one's going that way, one's going that way. I want to have all of my seams going in that direction. It's called spinning the seams. And so I can do that. And of course with bias, be careful because bias can distort. Okay, so now I'm just spraying this down. You can do this with water. This is vodka because I have some of that left over from when I did an experiment on that back in January. And just basically, I'm pressing it, I'm getting the moisture to basically dry out here. And then here's the finished block unit here. And then that's the way it looks on the back with the spinning seam. And that is a nice unit that is ready to go. Here it is with these 4 blocks here. So now I am ready to start building this star. And here is my diagram. So I'm going to follow the diagram here. We need the center block here, or the center square, I should say. And then I'm going to have this square here, and this square here, that one there, and that one there. And then I need my background squares here. So this, and there. We're going to get all of these background squares into place. And then all I have to do is just sew these rows. And so these 3 together, 3 together, 3 together. And then once I have those, then I can go ahead and sew the seams and have the whole block together. And here it is, the finished block. I think this turned out very nice. I have a lot more fabrics, and so my goal here is to make 25 different blocks and have different fabrics for all of the stars and different fabrics for all of these centers. And this should be a fun stash buster kind of a challenge, and also a good way to do a scrappy quilt that also has kind of a common theme to it. Let me know what you think in the comments and what you might decide to do as your project during this time period. Thanks for watching!